some of my greatest memories of childhood with my parents, the memories of going to the ball games. And we want to try to bring that back. God, you want to have a team that the fans like, that the fans can fall in love with. One of the kind of the mantras around the Giants is we're in the memory making business.
And last time you were on these airwaves, or specifically on this show, you were with Bonte and Chasky, and you're talking about, not being a stranger. That was the quote we've been using. It says, don't be a stranger to Giants games this year. And it's been quite the opposite. There's not a lot of strangers. There's a lot of fans filling up that ballpark. And just talk about the vibes. The vibes has been so great this year. And I get it. The team is winning. It's been fun. Jung-Hoo Lee's been awesome. Elliot Ramos kind of having another all-star season. It's been a lot of fun here. You got some familiar names with Logan Webb, and you got guys like Justin Verlander, but it can't always just be about the winning, right? Because this team's won in the past, and sometimes it felt like, hey, maybe it wasn't resonating as much. What's going on with the vibes this year at Oracle Park? It was a lot.
Well, that's great. Good morning, Joe and Joe. And you guys you're good. You're on it. That was an excellent question. And what do we have 45 minutes to respond?
Sure.
Just kidding. No, it's great. And so just, kind of big picture, I would say, Joe, we, really in the off season, I think that's kind of where it started. We really feel like the fan base became engaged in, a couple of the moves we made and just some of the signaling of, how the team was going to be put together. And if you see this year, I think we felt like spring training. A lot of times spring training, you can have a great spring training and doesn't translate to the regular season. Sometimes it's just the opposite. Spring training doesn't go so well, at least the wins and losses, and maybe it's artistically, and then you do great during the season coming out of the blocks. With us, we felt like Bob Melvin and the coaching staff, Buster and Zach in the front office, had a plan for spring training, and it carried over into the regular season. And with with the grit and the grind and the pitching and defense centric team with timely hitting. So hopefully the fans picked up on that because the vibe has been good. The vibe was good just in terms of advance ticket sales. The vibe was good before we even threw a pitch. And then once we started the season, it's been really positive, just all around. So we're very thankful, and we feel like the kind of baseball that we've moved toward this year is really also, in addition to being winning baseball, it's what the fans like just in terms of artistically with regulars out there pretty much every day. We have maybe 6 of the 8 position players are playing every day. With the starting pitchers are. The philosophy is not really to use openers and to have the starters be starters and all that.
Well, I think it's a brand of baseball, which I was describing over the weekend. It's a brand of baseball that I grew up watching and loving and liking, and they've won, as in the Giants, you guys have won a lot of games with. The Bailey with a big hit to drive in a run. Then you bunt the guy over, and then Ramos comes up and hits a single and knocks that guy in. That's a brand of baseball my generation, my father's generation, and the generation before him grew up playing. And I think it really does matter. And seeing a young guy in Ramos, seeing the guy you signed a couple years ago, Jung-Hoo Lee, get off to a good start. Yaz has been here a while, but he gets off to a nice start. And having Chapman and Adames, I just think that there's a lot of things that are aligning right now for you guys, and I'm seeing it in the stadium and in the crowd. My brother went to the game the other night, Tuesday night game. This was not this Tuesday, but the last Tuesday, and he goes, I couldn't get over how many people were there, and it just feels like the vibe around the entire team is really coming up right now. Do you get that sense from your patrons when you walk around Oracle that people are just happier?
We do, and I think it is because, and I think in your first question, you got at this, and Buster talks about this a lot, is that you want to have a winner, and that's supremely important. But to go with it, you want to have a team that the fans like, that the fans can fall in love with. And one of the kind of the mantras around the Giants is, we're in the memory making business. We want people, and part of this was me as a child. Some of my greatest memories of childhood and teenage years with my parents and friends was the memories of going to the ball games. And we want to try to bring that back. And I think in today's world, not to be overly philosophical, but in today's world, there's so much going on. There's the pressures, there's the screens, there's the, all of the things that are going on that, a fun 2.5 hours, and it's now 2.5 hours, not 3 or 3.5 hours in most games. A fun 2.5 hours with your friends, with your family, just on your own or with your group from school or from the office is just, I don't know, it even resonates more. And then in terms of the falling in love with the players, if you know that Willie Adames and Matt Chapman and Jung-Hoo Lee and Elliot Ramos and, they're going to be on the field, Yaz, et cetera, going to be, pretty much you're going to be able to see them every day. That can matter. So we feel really good about the way it's come together. And the players hopefully feel that way too, because they're playing really well. We've had a little bit of a bump here last series or so, but overall it's felt really good.
You referenced something there, and we've been kind of talking about it all week with all these contract extensions. You see what's going on with Juan Soto in New York and Rafael Devers in Boston. Some of these high-priced guys, it seems like they're not that they're malcontents, but there's stuff going on. And I think about Brock Purdy's contract right now. When you are with someone every day, you get a good feel for who they are. You guys signed Matt Chapman last year, and you got a good feel for who he was, having him on the roster. What is something that maybe you've learned about Willie Adames, having not known him too well before signing here, that you've learned about him, seeing him every single day interact with people on and off the field?
Well, okay, so and it's a great example, and huge credit to Buster and Zach and our team for putting this together. What we learned about Willie Adames, which was what we had heard about, but you never really know until he's inside your clubhouse, he's a culture carrier. That's what we call it, culture carrier. What does that mean? It means that his enthusiasm, his team-oriented approach creates a culture, helps create a culture, helps change a culture if that is what was needed, etc. And is super valuable beyond what the statistics say. And that has absolutely been the case. He's a winning player. And that's just sort of the way we felt about him before we signed him. And that's what, so far, first 50 games, that's the way it's turned out. It's interesting. You talk about the big contracts, and it's no secret. We haven't shied away from the big contracts, right? We've gone after, it's been well documented. We went after some of the big free agent targets in the last few seasons. I think that's who we are as a Giants. We want to bring, stars to the Giants. Our first move with this ownership group was bringing Barry Bonds in as a free agent. Having said that, we were also very, satisfied and optimistic about the youth on the team and the farm system and what that can deliver. A couple nights ago, when we played Kansas City on a Tuesday night, we used 5 pitchers with Birdsong starting. It was a starter, first start back this year, and all 5 came from our farm system. So it was Birdsong, it was Randy Rodriguez, Kyle Harrison, Doval, Ryan Walker. And all 5, were developed by us. And that's, if you can do it that way to some extent and marry that with the Willie Adameses and the Matt Chapmans, Jung-Hoo Lees, who were free agents, that probably is the way we'd like to go forward and blend it that way.